right, so let's take a look at our Unit 8A test review. Question number 1. Kyle is draining a 64,000-gallon swimming pool. The pool has 16,000 gallons left. After 6 hours, write a proportion that Kyle can use to find out how much longer it will take for the pool to fully drain. So, honestly, I would accept a few different answers here as correct, but the main thing that I'm looking for is we're comparing gallons and hours. And I mean, well, let's just look at it real quick, and then I'll talk about what I'm looking for. So I know that it has 16,000 gallons remaining. I don't know how long it's going to take. What else I know that it already has drained. It has a total of 64,000. 16,000 is left, so that means 48,000 gallons have drained, and it drained in 6 hours. And what I'm mainly looking for here is I'm looking for, in my gallons row, that I have gallons, right? So 16,000, 48,000 gallons. And in my hours, I have my unknown, and I have 6 hours. So as long as we've set that up correctly, if you put that it was 64,000 and you put that it was 16,000 and then you put somewhere that it was 6 hours, right? I'm okay with that because the main thing that I'm looking for this question is, did I put my gallons in the right spot? Did I put hours in my right spot? So that's the main thing in order to get this question correct on the test. All right, number 2, a bag of popcorn contains 483 calories, serves 3.5 people. I like this question because it's worded kind of funny. How many calories are in each serving? So serving singular. So I'm looking for a unit right there. But what am I comparing? And so usually I'll have some students that are telling me that they're comparing calories in people, but we're not really talking about people. We're talking about servings, calories in each serving. And so there's 483 calories, and that's in 3.5 servings. So it serves 3.5 people. Well, that's just talking about 3.5 servings. And so again, I like that because I like that it's worded that way, because in real life, when you look at food packages, you'll notice that it's 3.5 servings or 3 1/4 servings, things like that. And obviously we don't have 3.5 people, but 3.5 servings is pretty common. All right, so in each serving, well, that's going to be in one serving. And so now that I've set that up, I need to look for, do I know a relationship between 3.5 and 483? Not real sure. But 3.5 and 1, that's always easy. My arrows have to point to my unknowns. I do need an arrow on each side, so top and bottom, in this case, going left to right, going the same direction. And then how do I get from 3.5 to 1? I'm going to divide by 3.5. So if I divide 3.5 on the bottom, I need to divide by 3.5 on the top. So 483 divided by 3.5. Now, remember, if I have a decimal in my divisor, then I need to move my decimal one place. And so here, same thing, move my decimal one place, throw it on the roof and forget about it. Let me fill in that 0. And now it's just 4,830 divided by 35. That's going to give me my answer. Question number 3, which is a better buy? And of course, it's rumored that a question just like this will be on your test. Hint, hint. And so, which is a better buy? 32 ounces of peanut butter for $5.76 or 16 ounces for $3.52. So I'm going to have to do 2 different ratios and 2 different rates, and then I can compare them. So for my 32 ounce, I'm comparing dollars or cost per ounce. And in this case, 32 ounce, and it's going, whoops, that's not right. 32 ounce, and that's going to be for $5.76. Over here, still cost per ounce. In this case, it's a 16 ounce, and it's going to be $3.52. I have a couple options. One, I can take them both to the unit rate and try to decide from my unit rate which one's a better deal. Or I just happen to recognize that 32 and 16 play nice together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just make this one equal 32. And so I can do that because I know the relationship between 16 and 32. And so my arrow has to point to my unknown. And so once I do that, 16 times 2. So then $3.52 times 2. Once I have this amount, I can compare this amount to 576. Which one is a better deal? Which one is a better buy? Which one is cheaper? And then, so once I know which one's cheaper or better deal, then I can answer the question. Question number 4, which statement best describes the table? And so here, the ratio of laps to days is 1 to 18. So laps to days, here I have 18 to 1 day. No, I don't think that one's correct. But in 5 days, 80 laps will be completed. So real easy to test that out. How do I get from 1 to 5? Do the same thing here. Did that give me 80? Yes or no? If no, then okay, I can eliminate that answer choice. Another thing I can do, the ratio of laps to days is 18 to 2. Well, it's pretty easy to figure out if that one's right or wrong. And then the last answer choice, in 4 days, 72 laps will be complete. So now I just have to make that days 4. How do I get from 1 to 4? Use that same scale factor, 18 times whatever, and is that 72? And I can confirm whether or not my answer is correct. Number 5, a total of 96 liters of blood was collected at the blood drive. How many milliliters were collected? So we have the King Henry solver, big to small, small to big. I can use that strategy, or I can just use proportionality. And I'm comparing liters to milliliters. How many liters? 96. How many milliliters? IDK. So I'm going to leave that for now. What is my relationship between liters and milliliters? I'm going to look at my MVP, and I'll see that 1 liter is 1,000 milliliters. And from here, I have a couple of different options. I could either say, oh, I know how to get from 1 to 96 because my arrow again has to point to my unknown. So 1 to 96, that's one way to do it. Or I could say I know how to get from 1 to 1,000. Again, my arrow has to point to my unknown. And so either way, that's going to give me my answer. So a couple of methods there. Number 6, Robin's Breakfast House sells donuts for $10.20 per dozen. What is the cost of 1 donut? So cost per donut. And so what I know is I know that it's $10.20 per dozen. So that's 12 donuts. But I'm looking for the cost of 1 donut. And so now that I've set that up, I just kind of look and see, do I know a relationship between 10, 20, and 12? No. Do I know between 12 and 1? Oh, yes, I sure do. And my arrow has to point to my blank, so now it's set up. So 12 divided by 12 is 1, so then whatever 10, 20 divided by 12 is will give me my answer. A florist uses 20 daisies to make 8 identical arrangements. How many daisies would she need to create 6 arrangements? So I'm comparing daisies to arrangements. And in this case, 20 daisies, 8 arrangements, and we need to know how to get to 6. Now, I don't know how to get from 20 to 8, and I don't know how to get from I'm sorry, 8 to 6 because 8 arrangements, 6 arrangements. So I'm going to have to use another step. I know that eventually I want to get to 6 arrangements, so I have my 6 down in my arrangements row. And so from here, I need some number that's going to play nice with 8 and 6. And I have a couple of options. I could take it up to 24, then back down to 6. Or I could take it to my unit rate and then up to 6. And so I'm going to go this method, and I'll go ahead and work this one out for you guys. So again, I don't know the relationship between 20 and 8, but I do know 8 to 1. My arrowhead has to point to my unknown, so I'm going to go from left to right. 8 divided by 8 is 1, so 20 divided by 8. And so when I do 20 divided by 8, I could simplify that to 10 over 4, 5 over 2, and then I know 5 over 2, or 5 divided by 2 is just 2.5. And so from here, how do I get from 1 to 6? And so again, my arrow has to point to my unknown. And so 1 times 6 is 6. And so 2.5 times 6. And so whatever that number is will give me my answer. The NFL regulation football field is 100 yards in length. How many feet is that? So I'm comparing feet and yards. In this case, 100 yards. I don't know how many feet that is. So that's what I'm trying to find out. That's my unknown. I look at my MVP. My MVP tells me that there are 3 feet in 1 yard, and now it's set up. And I have a couple of different options. I could either say, well, what's my relationship from 1 and 100, or what's my relationship from 3 and 1? The main thing is I need to make sure that my arrow is pointing to my unknown. So here I'm going from bottom to top if I choose to go that route. Number 9, the model below, the ratio of gray squares to total squares. So this is a part to whole relationship, gray to total. And so I have 1, 2, 3, 4 gray and 10 total. And I may not see this as an answer choice because I need to simplify it. So I have a ratio, and it may be wanting a rate or a simplified ratio. And so answer choice might be 2 to 5. So it's a 2 to 5 ratio, or 2 to 5 rate, depending on how you want to look at that. Number 10, Frankie weighs himself. He discovers that he weighs 77,777 grams. How many kilograms is that? So I'm comparing grams to kilograms. And in this case, how many? Well, 77777. How many kgs is that? IDK, so I'm going to leave that blank. Look at my MVP. My MVP tells me that 1 kilogram is equal to 1,000 grams. And then from here, I just take it the rest of the way. Number 11, a lemonade recipe calls for 8 gallons of water. How many quarts of water are needed? So gallons to quarts. How many gallons? 8. How many quarts? IDK. And I'm trying to get to or my relationship. So I look at my MVP. My MVP tells me 1 gallon is 4 quarts, or in a garden there's 4 queens. And so there we go. Just take that the rest of the way. Number 12 is always tricky, and it's rumored that there's a question similar to 12 on your test. So yeah, let's make sure we look at it carefully. For every 5 regular hot dogs sold by Hot Dog World, 4 footlongs are sold. Based on this ratio, how many regular hot dogs will be sold if they sell 54 total hot dogs? So I'm comparing not regular to footlong, but regular to total. And so in this case, looking back at my original information, my starting amounts, 5 regular to how many total? And you might be tempted to say, oh, well, that's 4 total, but that's not true. So 5 regular and 4 footlong, 5 and 4 gives you 9. So there's 9 total to start with. And then they want to know, based on that, if they sold 54 total, how many of them would be regular? And there you go. Now that you have it set up, then you're good to go. And I look here. I don't know how to get from 9 to 5. I don't know what that relationship is. But 9 to 54, really easy. Arrow has to point to my unknown, and just finish it out. Next question, question number 13. A nurse sees 30 patients in 5 hours. At this rate, approximately how many patients will she be able to see in a 7-hour period? So, let's see. We have our ratio tables, so we can use that. You can set up proportions if you want. Just write them out. I'm going to go ahead and do with the ratio table just so we have some experience with a different method. So, how many patients? 30. How many hours? 7. And what am I trying to get to? I'm trying to get to 7. 5 hours. And then I'm trying to get to 7, so put some wrong information here. So apologize for that. And how many patients? 30. And that's 5 hours. And I'm trying to get to 7 hours. So easiest way for me is to go ahead and take it down to my unit rate. So I got to get from 5 to 1 because my arrow needs to point to my unknown. And so when I do that, I'm going to divide by 5 here. So 30 divided by 5 is 6. And then I can go from 1 to 7 very easily by multiplying by 7. So then 6 times 7, and that'll give me my number of patients. Next one, a shipping company packs boxes at the rate shown in the graph below. It's important to notice that this is a multiplicative relationship, and we know that because everything in this unit's multiplicative, and it goes through the origin. So just kind of across disciplines, within disciplines, relating that back to our previous units. All right, so based on the data in the graph, how many boxes will the shipping company be able to pack in an 18-hour period? Now, it's not really possible for me to extend that out to 18. So I don't recommend that this time. So, but what I can do is I can just look at these points and try to find a point that's going to give me some good information. So I think I told both of my classes this, but just in case I didn't, I'm going to tell you now, don't pick a stupid point. So this point here, I have no idea where that is. I know it's around 1, little more than 10. I don't know. So don't pick that point. That's stupid. Don't pick this point. Don't pick this point. And don't pick this point because I don't have good information. But I do have good information here. I know that that's 5 hours. I know that that is 60 boxes. That's good information. That's a good point. So with that... With that information, I can know I'm comparing hours and boxes. How many hours? 5. How many boxes? 60. That's some good starting information. So number 14, how many will they be able to pack in an 18-hour period? Oh, that's not so bad. 18 hours. And then I look, and at first glance, I don't know how to get from 5 to 18. But I look at 5 and 60, I do know that relationship. My arrow has to point to my blank, and so that's going to give me some good information. So how do I get from 5 to 60? Multiply by 12, so then 18 times 12 is going to get me my answer that I'm looking for. Number 15, based on the graph, how many hours will it take them to ship or to pack 120 boxes? So again, I'm comparing hours and boxes. How many hours? It was 5 hours for 60 boxes, and I'm trying to get to 120 boxes, and that's pretty easy to take it the rest of the way. Number 16, a public library has volunteers that return the books to the shelves. And Lisa shelves 175 books in 25 minutes. Patricia does 180 books in 45. How many books does Patricia shelf each minute? So I want to eliminate Lisa's information because my question doesn't care about Lisa. Sorry, Lisa. And so Patricia shelves some books in some minutes. How many books? Well, 180 books. And how many minutes? 45. And she wants to know each minute singular. That's 1 minute. And so there. How do I get from 45 to 1? And just finish that one out. All right, number 17. Talking about Collins High School and their spaghetti dinner fundraiser. And so here I'm going to end up comparing. So I have Michelle handing out some flyers. Jennifer hands out some flyers. Who hands out more flyers per hour? So again, it's rumored that I'll have a comparison question like this. And so Michelle, Jennifer, and we're talking about flyers in hours. So Michelle does 120 flyers in 4 hours. Jennifer does 177 flyers in 3 hours. And I'm going to recommend just taking each of these to a unit rate, and then I can compare that unit rate and be able to tell who handed out more flyers in 1 hour. Number 18, Alana can type 120 words in 3 minutes. How many can she do in 8 minutes? So I'm comparing words in minutes, 120 in 3. Trying to figure out how to get to 8. Now, I don't know a relationship between 3 and 8, but maybe I know a relationship between 3 and 120 because I know a relationship between 3 and 12. Make sure your arrows point to your unknown, and you should be able to take that the rest of the way. Now, if you wanted to, go ahead and add an extra step in there and do another line equals line and take it to a unit rate and then back out to 8. That's perfectly fine too, whatever works best for you. Number 19, Sally ran 3 miles in 24 minutes. How many minutes should it take her to run 5 miles? So comparing miles and minutes. And how many miles? 3. How many minutes? 24. Trying to get to 5 miles. I don't know a good relationship between 3 and 5, so that doesn't help. But I do know 3 and 24. Make sure you're pointing your arrows to your unknown and take it the rest of the way. Number 20, another one that they've given us a ratio table to set it up. So I'm going to use that, and I'll make this one look a little different than even the last one. So a recipe that makes 16 blueberry muffins calls for a half cup of flour. How much of flour is needed to make 120? So here we go. We're comparing muffins, and we're comparing that to flour. Now, how many muffins? 16. How much flour? 1/2. I don't really like having a 1/2 flour there, so I'm going to take that to 1 whole. That's going to give me 36 muffins. So all I did was I just doubled it. So multiplied by 2 if you're wanting your scale factor. And I'm trying to get to 128. So let's see if I can get there. So if I double it again, that gives me to 64. And that's going to double from 1 to 2. And then, yep, 64 doubled is 128. And so double 2, that gives me 4. So all I did was I just doubled it each time to get me to 4 cups of flour. All right. And if you didn't like that way and you wanted to set up the ratios and the proportions and do all that, that's perfectly fine. 21, second to last question. Nice, easy question. Arlene wants to serve 16 pints of ice cream. How many quarts is that? Comparing pints to quarts. And how many pints? 16. How many quarts? IDK. And I look at my MVP. MVP tells me that it is 2 pints in 1 quart. And then I just finish it out. The last question, which the first question and the last question are the 2 hardest questions on this. And then a bunch of decently easy questions in the middle. Bucket of movie popcorn contains 855 calories and 4.5 servings. Which of the following is an equivalent? So comparing calories and servings, how many calories? 855. How many servings? 4.5. And I'm going to recommend we take that to a unit rate, and then we'll get a amount here. Then I'm going to recommend that we do the same thing here. So 190 for two servings. How many in one serving? Well, that's just 190 divided by 2. And I'm hoping that you're going to start seeing. The pattern that you're going to start seeing is really I'm just dividing this information here, right? Because how do I get from 4.5 to 1? Divide by 4.5. So 4.5, or 855 divided by 4.5. 190 divided by 2, 475 divided by 2.5, 1235 divided by 6, 575 divided by 3. And yeah, I know division's probably not our favorite thing in the world to do, but the whole point of this, the whole goal of this, as we start doing it a whole bunch, as we start seeing these, and they're not really shortcuts, but we just start seeing, hey, this is really what's going on. This is what we're doing to get our unit rate. And so, again, this is just practice to help you out. Once you've done all that, you can compare really, really easy which one has that same unit rate. Hopefully that helped. And if not, please ask in class. And